My name is Jordan Pippenger. I currently work 60 hours a week between 2 jobs, as well as doing Instacart on the side to make extra money. I'm also a 19-year-old sophomore at UNR, so between my work life and my studies, it's really hard to manage both and also make ends meet with all my bills. For my main job, I work 40 hours a week at the airport for a company called Avis Budget Group. It's a car rental service, and while the job itself isn't very tiresome or labor intensive, I work every day from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., which means I wake up around 7 a.m. most days. After getting home from work, which is usually only for about an hour, I only have time to eat before I have to head straight out to my second job. So that job on its own may not be tiresome or bad, it just all adds up slowly throughout the day. Following my main job, Monday through Friday, I also work at Home Depot. And when I get home at 5:30 p.m., that's when I get off work. And then there's also traffic. I get home around 6 o'clock, which gives me enough time to just eat and change before I head out to Home Depot. There I work in the freight department, which is very tiresome and grueling work. For 4 hours, we're stuck unloading trucks with heavy boxes for a minimum of 2 hours before unloading them into the store's shelves and racks. So after work in the morning, I'm there from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. and it's very tiresome. I get home, I shower, my body is sore, I go to bed, I wake up, and I do it all over again with no time for myself. And then on the weekend nights and on Tuesday and Wednesday in the morning, if I ever have free time, I'll spend time Instacarting. You may never have heard of it, but it's very similar to DoorDash. Instead, it's just for groceries. I enjoy this a lot more because while I work, I get to listen to my music or podcasts I enjoy. So it allows me to also make money while, still having time for myself. But I use it as a way to make ends meet as well. On to the first order of tonight. Stopping at Dollar Tree. Hopefully it should be quick and fast. Only order one of hopefully around 20. Hopefully can get home before midnight and make around $300 hopefully. And while it sounds like I may work a lot, my bank account doesn't look like it. So even with all these hours, I'm barely making ends meet and barely having enough for myself and don't really have much left over to do anything. When I work, I have to pay for my rent, which doesn't include utilities, which alone are about $50 to $100 on average. On top of that, I pay for my car insurance, my car payment, my phone. I pay for all these things on top of sending money back to my mom to help her take care of my 2 younger brothers, while also financing my school myself. Dealing with school is also very hard because, as anyone can imagine from what I've said, I don't have much free time. Not really anyways. So when I do have tests or homework or assignments, a lot of the time they're due during the weeks and I only have the nights of Saturday and Sunday off. So if I don't get it done then it means after I work from 9 to 5 and then 7 to 11, I come home and I stay up for an extra couple hours and get no sleep and go back to work the next morning. That way I can get my schoolwork done as well. So even though it's not something I want to do, I know I have to do it. I'm able to work this way and support myself and do the best I can to send money back home by trying to take as many online classes as possible. That way I can work more, and even on my breaks at work, I'll watch my online lectures or try and catch up on homework as well. However, I still do have 2 in-class in-person classes, which both happen to be on Monday and Wednesday. So while I work on Monday morning, I do have Wednesday off, and luckily for one of my classes, our midterm and final is only ever on Wednesday, and my other one most of the time is on Wednesday. So while I have those days scheduled off for in the morning, it makes it very easy to do my midterms and be able to at least attend class once out of the 2 weeks. So it helps a lot with that. And if I ever have a midterm not scheduled on those days, I always email my professor and explain it. That way I can work and still do good in school and pass, because I'm not paying all this tuition just to take these classes over and over again. I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and my childhood was pretty troubled, to say the least. My parents split when I was a really young kid, before I could even remember, which resulted in me and my mother going to live with my grandma because my mom was still in school herself, working to become a hairstylist. So, I'm very lucky to have the family I did in Vegas. I had my grandparents and my aunts and uncles out there. And speaking of my aunts, for a couple of weeks, me and my mom also had to go and live with them for a while. So it was very hard. But eventually my parents did end up getting back together, but still things weren't the best. It resulted in me moving around a lot in schools. In elementary school, I think I moved schools like 3 times. So it really sucked making friends, and eventually I kind of gave up on my 3rd one because I always felt like I was going to keep moving around, and every time I moved around I lost those friends. Because I wasn't old enough to have a phone or whatever, and neither were they, so it kind of sucked. But what sucked even more is my parents, as I got older, would start fighting a lot, having really bad arguments, seeing threats of having the cops called, and a lot of it I didn't understand at the time as to why they were fighting, but I do have distinct and I don't know if core memory is the right word, but being 8 years old, and we had this house in Rodrance. It was very nice, 2 stories, but I remember being a kid and sometimes I couldn't go to bed because I would hear my parents downstairs yelling, and I would go to the stairs and I would literally just sit down on them and see my parents fighting with each other and cry to myself, because of how bad they were. So things like that happened, and I forgot to mention, but I also had 2 younger brothers now at this point. So seeing my parents fight was very hard, and didn't know at the time, but my dad had a drug addiction and was an alcoholic. So I have another memory of coming home from school one day, and my dad, he was just almost unconscious on the floor, slurring all his words, unable to do anything. And I remember thinking, I have to call 911, and I asked my dad, if he was okay, if I need to call 911, and he tells me no, and I don't know why. Until years later when I think about it, because of the trouble he could get for all the drugs he has in him and all that stuff. And I remember being scared, thinking my father was going to die. And eventually my parents would split up, and I would live with my mom for the most part, and my dad a little bit. And since then we've had kind of a troubled relationship between me and my father, but things were better with my mom, and we were pretty good for the most part. My mom being a single mother, even though she made very good money, 6 figures as a hairstylist, that money doesn't go as far when you're a single person making 6 figures, and you also have 3 other mouths to feed. So my mom didn't have a lot of money to spare, and she had to work a lot, and we didn't get to see her as much because she would spend a lot of time working just to put food on our plates. And so because of that, we never really had much money, but she always did her best. So it's why I work hard because even though maybe my mom could lend a little bit of money, I know she doesn't have much, and both my brothers are still young. Neither of them are out of middle school. So I do my best to work for myself and to help send money back home to help her out. And on top of the money and being able to gain, and the money I need to be able to live and do, manage all my bills, I also do value the experience I get because I am a business major and I want to learn more about these businesses and how they function, all the roles they have, why they have them, how they work. And so they coincide with my degree and what I want to pursue. Because after college, I hope that I'm able to become financially independent without slaving away all these hours. I just want to be able to eventually open my own business, but even before that, when I get my degree, hopefully to have a better job, get an internship next year. That way I don't need to work 3 different jobs. To be able to take care of myself and still have the free time to do things I enjoy and to spend time with people. Things that are all important to me. And eventually, after having a job like that and learning more, to eventually open my own business and run it successfully, to be able to do all the things I want to do in life. And if I have to sacrifice the time now to get that time in the future, then it's worth it.